United States Supreme Court Justice Jackson swears in Vice President Sergio Osmeña as the new president of the Philippine Commonwealth. Congratulated by his daughter, Senor Osmeña signs his oath of office as successor to the late Manuel Quezon. Last rites in Washington for Quezon, beloved leader of his people. He died at 65, temporarily exiled in the United States. Full military honors for a gallant statesman and soldier, and staunch friend of the United States.
The only things vice presidents traditionally seem to have to do is to wait for presidents to die. Sergio Osmeña, our first vice president, had to live with a dilemma faced by all our vice presidents since. Do you loyally support the president or plot to replace him? Do you hope he dies or hope he lives so long you never get the top job? As the nation recently recalled the birth anniversary of Salvador H. Laurel, the first vice president of the post-EDSA era, and as all eyes are focused on our present vice president and his plans, if any, for 2010, I thought it would be timely to have Vice President's Night tonight. I'm Manolo, Quezon, the Explainer. This is the Explainer, where we explain issues, explain why issues are issues. And our explainee tonight is a writer for ANC, Moki Magpantay. Welcome back to the show, Moki.
Hi.
Well, you know, tonight we're going to be talking about what they always refer to as the fifth wheel of our government, the vice president. So we hope our audiences will be weighing in with their questions. So why don't you invite them to do just that?
Okay. So you can text REACT space X space your name and your question or reaction and send to 2366 for Globe and Sun and 231 for Smart. Or you can log on to www.the-explainer.com. Or
you can go on to Plurk, www.plurk.com, look for MLQ3, our account there, and leave your questions for us. And we're joined in our studio by students from the University of Perpetual Help Systems, Manila. Welcome to the show, and I'm sure they'll be having their question too. So our discussion on the country's vice presidents after this. Justice Robert Jackson, seen here congratulating President Osmeña after he administered the oath of office in 1944, more famously went on to become one of the lead prosecutors in the Nuremberg war crimes trials. Now, with Osmeña begins the often frustrating history of the vice presidency. If you go to the vice president's website, which you can see here, it all seems so smooth. There's a gallery of vice presidents, one after the other, all so nice, organized, and of little practical interest because most of them are dead. Yet there's a problem presented by this gallery, and it's misleading. Now, we like to think of our history as a straight line, one regime followed by the next in a smooth and unbroken succession of governments and constitutions. Now, to be sure, most of the time, it is a continuous line. Our present government, officially, our Fifth Republic, established in 1987, claims to be the direct descendant in a continuous line from the republic that gained independence in 1946, officially our third. And that republic, in turn, viewed itself as a direct linear descendant of the Commonwealth established in 1935. What no one could fix was any real link prior to that to the republic established in 1898 to 1899, officially our first. Now, this chart from Wikipedia puts it better, I think. Now, a series of lines, and some of the time, as was the case during World War II, with regimes operating on parallel lines. Our de jure, our legal government in exile abroad, our de facto Japanese occupation government operating at home. But tonight's not about presidents, mainly. It's about vice presidents. So let's look at another chart from Wikipedia on the vice presidents. Now, the Wikipedia chart and entry take their cue from the Office of the Vice President of the Philippines website, which lists Mariano Trias as the first vice president. That's because he was named vice president in the controversial elections held at Tejeros in March 1897, where the decision was made to establish a formal government rather than continue the revolution under the authority of the Katipunan. The problem is that we do not recognize Tejeros as an official republic, but more like something approaching an embryo government which lasted only until the Pact of Biak na Bato. Now, consider that our independence, officially speaking, dates to only June 12, 1898, which also marks our nation's official birthday and that of our flag and anthem. Now, our first republic dates to January 23, 1899, when what we called our first constitution was approved in Malolos, and our first president, Emilio Aguinaldo, was transformed from an egregious dictator, as our independence proclamation put it, to a constitutionally appointed president. Now, what was Mariano Trias then under the First Republic? He was a member of the cabinet, Secretary of Finance from January to May 1899 under the prime ministership of Apolinario Mabini, and Secretary of War from May to November 1899 under the prime ministership of Pedro Paterno. So here's the problem. You have an office older than the independence of our country and its first recognized government. Try explaining that. So let me suggest that the indubitable patriotism of Mariano Trias aside, it's fraudulent to consider him our first vice president. The first vice president of our country was the first vice president popularly elected in a nationwide election, and that was Sergio Osmeña, journalist, former speaker, former Senate president pro tempore. Now, the late Jose E. Romero, and that's the gentleman sort of over here with his profile in the corner, photographed with President Osmeña in what's now the Quirino Room of Malacanang, wrote in his memoirs that during the 1935 Constitutional Convention, the Cuencos and other political rivals of Osmeña in Cebu didn't want a vice presidency at all. But it seems that despite the rivalry between the two leaders dating back to 1922, and which was particularly ferocious in 1933, both Quezon and Osmeña had patched up their differences, and word was informally sent out that neither leader would run for national office without the other. So the vice presidency was established, but it was an office different from, say, the vice presidency of the United States. The Philippine vice president does not preside over the Senate, and he can be given a portfolio in the cabinet. And unlike in the US, he is separately elected from the president. This means, since he campaigns for the job and is elected separately, presidents have to keep paranoid watch over how vice presidents do electorally. This means, too, that the focus of the vice presidency has been overwhelmingly political. At its heart, as the office evolved, was to strengthen the slates put forward by party tickets. From 1935 until 1986, Filipino politicians were always careful to consider geographic balance in putting forward their candidates for the presidency and the Senate. Balance north with the south was the rule. Now, Quezon de Tagalog ran with Osmeña the Cebuano. Rojas de Capiceño had Quirino de Ilocano as his VP. Quirino de Ilocano ran with Lopez de Ilonggo. Magsaysay de Ilocano ran with Garcia de Boholano. The North-South rule would last until 1986, when both the Marcos Tolentino and Aquino Laurel tickets were, for the first time, single-region tickets. Since then, the reality that Luzon's votes equals the Visayas and Mindanao combined means Luzon-centric slates for the presidency and the Senate have become the norm. And conscious in people's minds, on the other hand, was a very real possibility that a vice president, regardless of where he was from, can become president at any time. Hence the need to elect someone qualified to be president at a moment's notice. And it's happened thrice already. In 1944, when Osmeña succeeded Quezon, who died of tuberculosis. In 1948, when Quirino succeeded Rojas, who had a heart attack. And in 1957, when Garcia succeeded Magsaysay, who died in a plane crash. All these successions went fairly smoothly, not least because all of these vice presidents had belonged to the same party as their presidents. But in 1957, something changed. Carlos P. Garcia, who'd run with Jose B. Laurel Jr., was faced with an oppositionist vice president, Diosdado Macapagal. This had never happened before, and Garcia unwisely decided that Macapagal shouldn't get a cabinet position, and even assigned him a car in such bad condition it kept breaking down. The result was Macapagal, having no job, spent the next 4 years campaigning around the country and showing everyone that lousy car that had been assigned to him. And Macapagal beat Garcia in 1961. And after that, the actively hostile relationship between president and VP prevailed. between Macapagal and Manuel Pelaez, the first vice president from Mindanao, and most famously between Ferdinand E. Marcos and Lopez, who held the vice presidency the most times, once under Quirino and twice under Marcos, until the job was abolished by martial law. So when we return, we'll look at the vice presidency since the restoration of democracy in 1986.